Hello YouTube, welcome back to Carson Reads. This is a channel where I read some books, let you know if you should read them too, give a rating on them, hopefully start a little discussion about them. This week I guess it's not weekly, but this episode is on The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins there. And it was an adventure reading this because, well, first of all, because it's been so long since I read it. I remember when it came out and I was in my 5th grade year in elementary school, and there were some parents, there was like discussion on whether or not we were old enough to read it because there's violence, there's so much action. I haven't seen the movie since it's been out either. Looking at the last episode that we had on the very first one about The Great Gatsby, I decided that these videos should be more structured. We'll start with a summary, plot overview, move into my rating, and we will go into the analysis. The first half of the video, there won't be any spoilers, so if you haven't read The Hunger Games yet, that's okay. I'll slap on a little spoiler alert warning when we get more into the analysis side of things. So we will start with the summary plot overview. It is a dystopian future novel, and we learn that it's so dystopian because there were many uprisings in this country, and the capital had to squash them. There's this place called the capital, and there are 12 districts. The districts had united together, and they were rising against the capital, but they lost. And so now the capital watches them like a hawk all the time. They have the police force of the capital to make sure that there are no uprisings, no riots, no nothing. But it's the capital's way or it's certain death. And to remind the citizens of all the districts that they are the ones in charge, every single year they host something called the Hunger Games. And to kick off the Hunger Games, even before the Hunger Games start, a representative goes to each district and they select 2 teenagers to go into this huge arena. So there's 12 districts, 24 kids total, 24 teenagers total, and they have to fight to the death. District 12's representative from the capital to draw these 2 names is named Effie Trinket. And they put the names in these huge glass bowls. And she just simply draws out 2 names, and these are the 2 names, 1 girl, 1 guy, and these are the 2 kids that have to go into the arena to duke it out. You can exchange more names in the pot for grain and oil, though. And so Katniss Everdeen, she's super poor. Her father died in a coal accident many, many years ago, and so she has had to put her name into the bowl many times. I won't give away what happens, but we know that Katniss's name is in there a lot. Whoever wins the games, that 1 teenager out of the 24, is crowned as a victor. And for the rest of their lives, they live leisurely lifestyles. They get a lot of money for winning the games, a lot of fame. The whole country knows them. The whole country is watching them, the games. They're televised, and everybody's mandated to watch the games as they go on because it's a time for celebration of remembering how great the country of Panem is. And the main character of this whole story, her name is Katniss Everdeen. She's angsty, she's almost hard to like, but it's in a good way because it breaks away from the cookie cutter, the knight in shining armor who's perfect, the Prince Charming. Instead it's Katniss Everdeen, this poor girl from District 12 who has a lot of sass. She's very feisty. She stands up for what she believes in, and so I don't know. I think it's good. She is kind of whiny at times and unfair to those around her. She's very unique, and the way that this book is written, there is always something calling for your attention, always something beckoning you to read more, and it's a good thing. I mean, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you focused, it keeps you reading. It's a very easy read. You could read this in a couple days if you'd like to. I mean, the action is spelt out very simply, and there's a lot of action. So after having said all that, my score, Carson's score, I'm not a professional critic, but my score for this book is 78 out of 100. That might be a little bit lower than what a lot of you were expecting, but let me explain why. Just as I was saying how there's always something on every page that's calling for you, it kind of makes the plot very even, and it makes it not boring because there is so much action, but it gets too predictable because this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And so you're reading it and it's a good read, but there's no change in pace throughout the whole book. But the idea of this story, The Hunger Games, is fantastic. People still are reading it because the idea of this Hunger Games and this dystopian future, it resonates and it's iconic. Another reason why the score isn't higher in my books is because of the ending. It's not the ending, it's not the climax, but right before the climax, some things happen that I'm just like it was kind of weird. It kind of felt weird. It kind of fit too perfectly in place. And I think it could have been altered a little bit to make it not so perfectly streamlined, but also very odd. Up to this point, I've been avoiding the big plot spoilers, but now spoilers. So right before the climax of the story, where Katniss and Peeta, they have the berries, the nightlock in the arena, the parts with the mutts, the parts with Cato in the gold cornucopia, it said he looked just like a raw piece of meat in there with eyes. It felt very weird to me, and I didn't understand why it needed to happen like that. I didn't understand why the mutts needed to represent all of the tributes from each of the districts that I've already passed on. I didn't get the reason. And so if you have any insights as to why, please let me know. And the plot, it does move at almost a monotonous pace. Not monotonous because it's boring, but monotonous because something is always happening, almost perfectly timed something happens. And I understand that it was written for, I guess, teenagers who might not have the attention span to read through some thicker substance than just having it spelled out. I think those are the two main reasons why the score is not higher. As well, Katniss is kind of an annoying character. I know where she's coming from, but I don't know, kind of whack. At the same time, there are so many good parts of the story. It is chock full of memorable scenes and experiences that the characters go through. And the first time that I felt stress for Katniss was when, right before she's about to go up in the cylinder into the games, and she's with Cinna, and he says to her, "Remember what Haymitch said, run, find water, the rest will follow." I nod. "And remember this, I'm not allowed to bet, but if I could, my money would be on you." "Truly?" I whisper. "Truly," says Cinna. He leans down and kisses me on the forehead. "Good luck, girl on fire." And then she's in the cylinder and it's rising, and then the chapter ends with a booming voice saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, let the 74th Hunger Games begin." And it's like, wow. And so that brings us to my favorite part of the entire story, and it is when Rue dies. And it says, I'm just going to read a couple sentences, a couple excerpts from this whole passage, but it says, "It's a child's scream, a young girl's scream. There's no one in the arena capable of making that sound except Rue. When I break into the clearing, she's on the ground, hopelessly entangled in a net. She just has time to reach her hand through the mesh and say my name before the spear enters her body. The boy from District 1 dies before he can pull out the spear. My arrow drives deeply into the center of his neck." And then she goes up to Rue, and they have this emotional exchange. And Katniss tells her, I'm going to win. I'm going to win for both of us. And Rue, with her very last seconds in life, she asks Katniss to sing for her. And it's my favorite part because it's so raw, it's so emotional. I feel like it's a part in the story where you can see Katniss at her very best. So there you have it. My favorite part of the whole book. So good. Let me know what your favorite parts of the book are. Let me know what your thoughts on the book are in the comments. And so the next book I'll be reading, if you'd like to join, next episode will be on Catching Fire. So read it with me. Let's start this book club going, and we can talk about it when we finish. We'll see you next time.